On October 3rd, 2024, a white 4Runner with 142,000 miles on the clock rolled into my shop with a sound I recognized before the driver even shut the engine off. "A low hum on the highway," she said. "Gets louder around 60, quiets down when she lets off the gas." The dealership had already listened to it, nodded gravely, and handed her an estimate for just under $3,400. She wasn't there for a second opinion on the price. She was there because something the service advisor said didn't sit right with her. He told her these things just wear out, and she asked him the one question he couldn't answer: wear out from what? Today I'm going to show you the component that question was about, why it fails in cars that are otherwise perfectly maintained, and why the fluid inside it, fluid almost nobody on Earth has ever changed, is the difference between a part that lasts 300,000 miles and a part that dies at 140,000 miles. Because here's what I found when I put that 4Runner on the lift. I didn't find a broken part. I found a neglected one. And there is a massive difference. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you changed your engine oil? Probably recently. You might even know the exact mileage. Now, when was the last time you changed your differential oil? Most of you just realized you don't know what that is. Some of you know what it is and just realized you've never touched it. And a few of you are frantically trying to remember if any shop ever in the entire life of your vehicle has mentioned it even once. That's not a coincidence. That silence is the whole story, and we're going to get into why it exists. First, let's talk about what this thing actually does, because you cannot care about a part you don't understand. If you drive a rear-wheel drive truck, an all-wheel drive SUV, or a four-wheel drive anything, there's a heavy metal pumpkin-shaped housing sitting between your rear wheels. Inside it is one of the oldest and most brilliant pieces of engineering in your entire vehicle. When you turn a corner, your outside wheel travels a longer path than your inside wheel. That means they have to spin at different speeds at the same time, while both receiving power. The differential is the gear set that makes that possible. Without it, your tires would hop and skip through every parking lot turn, and your axles would twist themselves apart. Now here's the part that matters. The gears inside that housing are not ordinary gears. Most differentials use what's called a hypoid gear design. The pinion gear sits below the center line of the ring gear. Engineers did this on purpose. It makes the driveline sit lower, it makes the gears stronger, and it makes them quieter. But it comes with a price. Hypoid gears don't just roll against each other the way normal gears do. They slide. Under load, those tooth surfaces are grinding across each other with tons of force concentrated on contact patches smaller than your fingernail. The pressure between those teeth is high enough to squeeze ordinary oil out of the way completely, metal touching metal, which would destroy the gear set in short order. The only reason that doesn't happen is the fluid. Gear oil isn't just thick engine oil. It's a different chemistry entirely, loaded with extreme pressure additives, sulfur and phosphorus compounds that bond to the gear surfaces and form a sacrificial layer. When the teeth slide against each other, they shear that chemical layer instead of shearing steel. That's why gear oil smells the way it does, by the way. If you've ever caught a whiff of it, you never forget it. That rotten egg smell is the sulfur compounds, the exact ingredient standing between your gears and self-destruction. And here's the uncomfortable truth. That sacrificial layer is exactly what it sounds like. Sacrificial. Every mile you drive, those additives are being consumed. Every hard pull, every trailer, every mountain grade, every stoplight launch burns through a little more of the chemistry. The fluid also has no help. Think about your engine oil for a second. It has a filter cleaning it constantly. It has an oil pump circulating it. It gets swapped out every few thousand miles. Your differential fluid has none of that. No filter, no pump, no cooler on most vehicles. It's a bath. The same 2 or 3 quarts splashing around in a hot metal box, catching every microscopic particle of metal that wears off the gears and bearings, and holding on to all of it. Forever. Or until someone drains it, which, statistically, is close to never. So, what happens over 100,000 miles of that? The additives deplete, the oil oxidizes from heat cycles, and darkens into something closer to tar than lubricant. The suspended metal turns it into a fine grinding paste. And now the bearings, the pinion bearings and carrier bearings that hold everything in perfect alignment are running in abrasive slurry instead of oil. Bearings wear. Clearances open up. The gear mesh that was set to a few thousandths of an inch at the factory starts to drift. And one day, on the highway, you hear it. That hum, that whine that rises with speed and changes when you get on and off the throttle. By the time you can hear a differential, the damage is already done. New fluid at that point is like flossing after the root canal. Good habit, wrong decade. That Forerunner's fluid told the whole story the moment I cracked the drain plug. What came out didn't pour. It oozed, black, thick, glittering with metal in the light like some kind of evil craft supply. The magnetic drain plug, and yes, most of them are magnetic for exactly this reason, had grown a fuzzy gray beard of metal particles so thick I couldn't see the magnet. That's not fluid anymore. That's evidence. Now let's talk about why nobody told you, because this is where I have to be straight with you about how the industry actually works. And I say this as someone who's been inside it for over 20 years. Your differential got forgotten by 3 different groups, all at once. The quick lube places don't touch it because their entire business model is 15-minute visits. A diff service doesn't fit the conveyor belt, and half their techs have never done one. The dealerships technically have it on the schedule, but look closely at the fine print. On a lot of Toyotas, the maintenance guide says, inspect the differential fluid every 15,000 miles. Inspect, not replace, and an inspection that finds nothing wrong bills 0 hours. So guess how thoroughly that inspection tends to happen. And then there's the marketing department, which gave us the most expensive word in modern car maintenance, lifetime fluid. I need you to understand what that word actually means, because it does not mean the fluid lasts forever. It means the fluid is expected to last the lifetime of the component. Read that again. If the fluid degrading is what kills the component, the fluid did technically last exactly as long as the part did. That's not a lubrication strategy. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy with a warranty period attached. To be fair, and I always want to be fair, this isn't some grand conspiracy of mustache-twirling villains. Nobody makes real money on differential services. It's a cheap job. So it doesn't get advertised, it doesn't get pushed, it doesn't get a sticker on your windshield. It just quietly falls through the crack between the oil change people and the repair people. The repair people, mind you, do eventually profit from it. A differential replacement runs anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000, and I've seen dealer quotes push well past $5,000 on some vehicles. Meanwhile, the fluid change that prevents all of it? Somewhere between $75 and $150 at most shops. 2 or 3 quarts of gear oil and half an hour of labor. That's the entire insurance policy. I've called this pattern out before on this channel, and I'll say it again. The cheapest fluid in your vehicle is protecting some of the most expensive parts in it. So let's talk about what you should actually do, because this is one of the most approachable jobs in all of car maintenance, and even if you never touch a wrench, knowing this makes you impossible to take advantage of. First, find out what you have. If you drive front-wheel drive only, Relax. Your differential is built into your transaxle and shares the transmission fluid, so it gets serviced when your transmission does. But if you have rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, you have at least one separate differential with its own fluid, and four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles usually have a transfer case on top of that. And here's the group I really need to reach: all-wheel drive crossover owners. Your RAV4, your Highlander, your CR-V. You have a rear differential back there. It's small, it's quiet, it's completely out of sight, and it is the single most forgotten fluid in the modern car world, because crossover owners don't think of themselves as truck people. The differential doesn't care what you think you are. Second, the interval. Under normal driving, every 30,000 to 60,000 miles is the range you'll see across most manufacturers, Toyota included. If you tow, haul, off-road, drive through deep water, or spend your life in stop-and-go traffic, live at the bottom of that range, 30,000. And one special note: if you've ever crossed water deep enough to reach the axle, change the fluid soon after, no matter the mileage. Differentials breathe through a small vent, and a hot differential dunked in cold water can inhale right through it. Water in gear oil turns it a milky gray-brown, like a bad milkshake, and it destroys the additive package almost immediately. Third, the fluid itself. This is not a place to grab whatever's on the shelf. Your owner's manual specifies a viscosity, 75W85 or 75W90 on most modern Toyotas, and a service rating, almost always GL5 for hypoid differentials. Use exactly that. And if your vehicle has a limited slip differential, check whether it needs a friction modifier additive, because a limited slip running on the wrong fluid will chatter and shudder around corners like the whole rear end is arguing with itself. The job itself, for those of you who do your own work, most differentials have two plugs, a drain at the bottom, a fill on the side. And here's the one rule that has saved more DIYers than any other: loosen the fill plug first, before you drain a single drop. Because if you drain it and then discover the fill plug is seized, you now own a vehicle that cannot move and cannot be refilled. Drain it warm, clean that magnetic plug, take a good look at what came off it. A fine gray paste is normal wear, but chunks or flakes you can feel between your fingers mean it's time for a real inspection. Refill through the side hole until fluid just dribbles back out at you. That's the level. The gears will fling it everywhere it needs to go from there. Now the honest caveats, because I promised her the truth and I'm promising you the same. If your differential is already howling, fresh fluid will not resurrect it. Worn bearings and glazed gear teeth don't heal. Sometimes new fluid quiets a tired diff for a few thousand miles, and sometimes that's a perfectly reasonable way to nurse an old truck along. But go in with your eyes open. This video is for the people whose differentials are still silent. And the other side of that coin, don't panic service a healthy one every 10,000 miles either. This isn't engine oil. The intervals exist because the fluid genuinely lasts that long. Neglect and obsession are both expensive. The schedule in your manual is neither. That 4Runner, by the way, got a full teardown. Pinion bearings were scored, and the ring gear teeth had the polished, worn contact pattern of a gear set that spent its last 60,000 miles fighting for its life in dirty oil. She ended up sourcing a good used differential for about a third of the dealer quote, and the fluid in that one got changed the day it went in and goes on the calendar every 30,000 miles from now on. Total cost of the maintenance that would have prevented the whole thing across the truck's entire life to that point. Maybe $400, spread across 14 years. So here's what I want you to do this week. Go find out if your vehicle has a differential. It takes 30 seconds of searching your model. Then go find out if that fluid has ever been changed. Check your records, call the previous owner, ask your shop. If the answer is never, and you're past 60,000 miles, book the service. It's lunch money compared to what it prevents. If this video just introduced you to a part of your own vehicle, hit like so it reaches the next driver before their differential starts humming. Subscribe if you want more of the maintenance nobody sells you, but everybody needs. And in the comments, tell me, how many miles are on your vehicle, and has your diff fluid ever been changed? Last time I asked a question like that, the honesty in that comment section saved a lot of drivetrains. Because the most expensive fluid in your car isn't the one you change, it's the one you never knew was there.